Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Duc Vuong, world famous bariatric surgeon, author of 13 books. You might know me from my COVID videos. And as we wind down this pandemic, I'm going live every single day in May to kind of give you some impartial information, what I think is going to happen, what we need to do. So today is May 14th. And yesterday, the CDC updated their mask guidelines. And I'm here to tell you why I disagree with them. It's nothing salacious, nothing too hard to understand. But yesterday, the CDC said basically anybody who's fully vaccinated, no longer, for the most part, they don't need to wear masks indoors or outdoors. A couple of situations, though, they do recommend it for public transportation, a lot of a mass gathering indoors, and any local requirements. So if you're locally, your grocery store, for example, one of the major grocery store chains here in Texas called HEB, they still require people to wear masks, etc. But for the most part, you can go to restaurants without masks. You can do small churches, small gatherings, etc. if you're fully vaccinated. And what they claimed was that the science has kind of come together. Recently, 3 studies were published, which one showed the efficacy of the vaccinations, showed that people who are fully vaccinated are not really spreaders of the disease. And number 3, and probably the most important, is that the vaccinations seem to be effective against the variants, specifically the UK variant. And so when all of that came together, the CDC decided to update their mask mandate, basically dropping it for everybody who's fully vaccinated. Now, why do I disagree with this? Number one, which is important. Okay, so I want to make this point, and it's super important. Now, only 45% of Americans are fully vaccinated, which is amazing, because a few weeks ago we weren't even there, and we have a lot of naysayers, etc. I think we'll get to the goal of 70% by 4th of July. That's happening pretty quickly. We're getting to about 2.5 million vaccinations a day here in America. But another way to look at this, though, is 55% of Americans are not vaccinated. And we know that the vaccines are, while wonderful, they're not 100% effective. They're 94% effective. So you still carry a 6% chance of catching COVID fully vaccinated. 6%, very low, but you can still catch it. In the recent news this morning, the New York Yankees announced that 8 of their players, though they were fully vaccinated, tested positive for COVID. Also, Bill Maher, the TV show guy, he tested positive for COVID, even though he's supposedly fully vaccinated. So you can still catch COVID. Now, having said that, these people who have caught COVID while fully vaccinated, for the most part, they're pretty asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic, which is what we want with a vaccine. So 94% in the big studies, right, which is why the vaccines were not fucking rushed. There were no shortcuts, et cetera, et cetera. These big studies that showed the efficacy of the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, 94% did not come down with COVID. The 6% who were vaccinated who developed COVID had milder symptoms. None of them were hospitalized and none of them died. So in other words, the vaccinations were 100% effective in keeping your ass alive. And also, if you did catch it, then you had a much milder case of it. So that seems to be the case with these athletes and Bill Maher, who recently came down with COVID. Now, the problem is I'm going to do number 2. And this is one of my major issues right here. I usually do these caps on. So the problem is we still don't know the real long-term effects of COVID. We know long hauler syndrome, right? A lot of patients now, some up to 30%, 30% of patients who recover from COVID have lingering effects. This is commonly known as long haulers syndrome, like they're called long haulers. And they might have these lingering COVID side effects for 6, 9, 12 months, and they don't seem to be getting better. And some of the signs of the long hauler, some of the symptoms include chronic fatigue, breathlessness, malaise. They often describe the brain fog. They can't quite think clearly. They can't remember. They want to sit on the couch. They want to stay in bed all the time. If they have any sort of exertion, they get winded easily. So, and these are people that are not old. They're usually in their 30s and 40s, and they're not like morbidly obese or have a lot of comorbidities. A lot of them used to be cyclists, runners, athletic, fit, and now they're having, in the prime of their lives, they're having terrible symptoms, migraines. We have documented cardiomyopathies. That's heart conditions, and as well as renal conditions. So knowing that, you have to kind of rationalize this and say, well, maybe I might survive COVID, but I don't want to risk the chance of having this long hauler syndrome when we know that 30%, that's almost 1 in 3, will have some sort of lasting problem. And the problem is we don't know how long it lasts. Okay. What I will tell you though, because it's not in the news, pay attention. This is not in the news. There are organizations, the big money people, they are already starting to set up clinics designed specifically for long haulers. So that is not in the news, but the people in the know that we're going to have a massive amount of people, a huge population of people who will need to be treated for long haulers. And so they're setting up full clinics and hospital systems designed just specifically for them. Well, what will this entail? Well, it turns out one of the best treatments for long hauler syndrome is actually getting vaccinated, which makes sense because possibly long haulers might be due to like a low level of virus inside of your system that your immune system can't clear on its own. So when you get vaccinated, that would make sense that now you develop antibodies and memory B cells and T cells that then boost your immune system and helps to clear any sort of lingering low levels of virus. Does that make sense? So these clinics are getting ramped up to do immunizations, monoclonal antibodies, but sadly, they're also ramping up to include physical therapy. So conditioning, reconditioning people. They're also setting up some IV infusions there's always somebody who's watching my lives and then they'll go, what about vitamin D and you just need to boost your immune system with zinc and you need to eat right. Well, it's too fucking late now, right? We should have been doing this the whole time before the pandemic started. So it's kind of late now to get on your high horse and start thumping your chest. So these clinics will also include IV vitamins, things like that. And I've done videos where I've broken down the recent data on ivermectin, vitamin D. Vitamin D seems to help a little bit, but the whole vitamin C, no data to support it. Zinc, no data to support it. Ivermectin, no data to support it. And all these people just go on, right? So just know that that's the problem. So let me get to number 3 about the CDC mask mandate. And I'm not political, but I understand how these things work. And I'm not blaming it on any sort of it. Well, I am kind of blaming it on previous administrations, but masks are still very politically charged. And by dropping these guidelines like this, you're putting people who, let's say your mom or your grandmother, whoever, or you, myself, right, always wore masks, always protect ourselves. We had bottles of hand sanitizers. We ate outdoors and we did outdoor dining. We minimized our grocery shopping. We did all that sort of stuff. Now, basically, you're telling me I can drop my mask, right? Which is what we want, by the way. But now I'm going into an environment where there's nothing on me that says I'm fully vaccinated, which I am. I got the Moderna vaccine. I got my second dose 2 weeks ago. So I'm completely vaccinated. My whole family's vaccinated, pretty much. Erica's vaccinated. My 14-year-old is, her mom's going to take her to get vaccinated later this week. And so, I mean, we're basically vaccinated, so we can get together without masks now. But I mean, when you go into a public environment, a public arena, there's no sign over my forehead or on my body that says I'm fully vaccinated. Just like there's no sign that tells somebody else like you're not vaccinated. So what we have here, and when I say it's politically charged, what it comes down to basically is this trust idea. And we, whether you want to agree with me or not, we have a problem with trust in this country. And I'm going to talk about America in particular. And that is like, I want to believe the best of my fellow America, but because this pretty Asian face, I know it's at risk for not equally being received as well, because as we know, the Asian hate crime is high, has really spiked up. We've seen all the reports on that, and I won't belabor that point. Now, I'm pretty blessed. I have not had to confront any issues because of how I look, but I think that until we have further guidance, we needed to kind of like slowly come out. Also, what we have to remember is that percentage-wise speaking, the vast majority of Americans are still not vaccinated, right? So use this in your head. Like, if you know that 55% of Americans are not vaccinated, yet you go to a bar or a restaurant or a movie theater and nobody's wearing masks, that doesn't make sense, right? So at least half of the people need to be wearing masks. Just kind of, that would make sense. That means like, okay, you can kind of trust most people are doing what they should be doing. Some people who have denied wearing masks, who've said it was a violation of rights, you can't tell me what to do, you're sheeple, yada, 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 they're not going to change their tune, which makes no sense, right? So if the CDC was telling you, if your leaders were telling you to wear a mask and you said, no, you can't tell me what to do, now the leaders in the CDC is saying, don't wear a mask. Well, if you can't tell me what to do is your attitude, shouldn't you be putting on mask? Logically thinking, you know, like, you can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me not to wear a mask. So I'm going to put on a mask. Hey, maybe that's crazy logic. Maybe that will work. I don't think it'll work. I don't think that if they've been a mask denier, they're going to suddenly start wearing a mask. Does that make sense? So what this will do now is to start leading to a little bit of tension between people, right? And that's the last thing we really want. Now, don't get me wrong, like, I want to get to a point, to a new normalcy where we can go without masks, but we're not quite there yet. What I would have done, I'm not in a position, but this makes more sense to me, is kind of held this as a carrot, you know, say, hey, if we can get to a 70% vaccination rate, if we can get to a 70% vaccination rate, then we set this up as a target. Like, okay, the reward, right? You guys saw me do push-ups, so the reward is gardening. If we can get to 70% vaccination, then we can drop the mask mandate, and that would make more sense, right? Because at 70, we really need 80% to really kind of get this herd immunity thing, 80, 85%. But I think around 70% would be fine. But to drop the mask mandate right now doesn't make sense because we're not at that vaccination point. So what I'm going to say, and I don't know for sure, and I'll just say probably. And oh, hold on. Which I think will probably be true. But you have to agree that the timing of this and how it rolled out was kind of sneaky, right? It was kind of odd. So my guess is the CDC, the directors of the CDC, World Health Organization, everybody, they're probably under a lot of political pressure to make a decision, to give this guidance, to update it so that you can kind of give people a certain amount of hope. Well, my issue with this is, you know, as when I was growing up, and maybe I was foolishly believing this, but I always thought of the CDC as a neutral, non-political party. That obviously went away with the last administration when they took the CDC reporting and out of the control of the CDC and reported the COVID numbers through the White House. So that automatically made the CDC no longer a neutral body, which I think led to the distrust and led to the mixed messaging coming out from our leaders. I'm not saying that problem is fixed. I'm not saying that this new administration is doing a better job. I'm just saying that there's probably underlying political pressure that I think has a lot to do with what's happening now. So what I would like to encourage y'all, and see, I haven't even really said a cuss word yet. I mean, this is a pretty nice, calm interview, right? What I would do is encourage you guys to use your common sense, to be kind to each other, get vaccinated if you're able to. If you choose not to, that's up to you, but understand you're putting yourself at risk, because the truth of the matter is 30% of people with COVID have long hauler symptoms. That's a lot. I mean, most people would love to have an 8% return on their retirement or their stocks, or even 10%, 8%, even 6%. So don't dismiss 30%. That is super high number of people. And we don't know the long-term effects of that. People go, yeah, but tell me the long-term effects of the vaccine. Dude, the vaccine just came out. We don't know the long-term effects of the vaccine, except to say that it appears to be mostly safe. But we can also say, that the vaccine appears to be mostly safe, and we know that long hauler syndrome appears to be really real and devastating. So will long hauler syndrome get better as we get better treatments, vaccinations? Yes, possibly. Might there be a few blips or whatever with vaccination? Sure, just like we saw with the J&J and the 6 blood clots. But remember, blood clots happen all the time. I mean, there are lots of reasons why people get blood clots. Just taking a birth control pill is a risk for blood clots, but women take birth control pills all the time. So there's this really confusion when people who barely pass science is trying to have an opinion. And you're entitled to your opinion, but just remember, like, there are sometimes, like, it's better to give up your opinion and just do what you need to do, wait out the time, and we can get back to a better level of normalcy. All right. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please hit the share button. Please hit the like button. As always, I will edit this down, put this up on my YouTube channel. I appreciate y'all very much. Be amazing. Be kind to each other. Be patient, but really start to be smart about your surroundings, okay? And I'll go live again tomorrow and this weekend. I'll see you soon. Thank you guys. Bye.